the LC500. About 2 years ago now, I released a video on it when I hit 100,000 subscribers, and that video covers every single detail that you want to know, so watch it. I'm not going to retread a lot of it, but I will say with the passage of time, I thought I would like this less, but after getting into it again, I still feel like this is one of the best modern cars I've ever driven, and in large part, it's because it's super original. It's not trying to be a BMW, a Mercedes, or anything else. And with the naturally aspirated V8 and the insanely quick automatic transmission that's in here when you're driving it flat out, it is so rewarding. And I told Jack about this, I tell everybody about it, it is so special. Now it's Jack's turn to get behind the wheel of it for the first time to see if my opinion matches reality. Let's take a look. Inside the new 2019 Lexus LC500. Now you're gonna have to forgive me. Mark left this interior a little sticky, so we're gonna work around that and talk about what's great and what's not so great about this car. The main thing that you notice when you're in this car is it does not feel overly sterilized. There's a unique attention to detail, particularly when looking at the cascading door panels, the tiered interior dash with this faux carbon fiber glossy finish, and this, for some reason, I don't know why I'm so emotionally attached to the analog clock, but it really tickles my rectum. Let's start with the first big negative with this car, and it's the seats. While the seats are incredibly comfortable and the seating position is great, my problem with them is that the seat coolers are so loud you can't hear yourself think. My other big complaint is the fact that there is no seat massage option, which I know seems outrageous, but it's odd in a car that is this expensive and is not pretending to be a sports car that it's not even an option, particularly at a $98,000 or $97,000 price tag that it's at. The other big complaint that I have with this car is the infotainment. Now, if you're used to other Lexi, or Lexuses, forgive me, you'll feel right at home. But that home feels like it's from a 1995 Windows computer. Nothing makes sense in the menus. The touchpad is horrendous, and thankfully, most of this is remedied by the addition of Apple CarPlay. You just plug in your phone and you pretend it's an iPod. And I know that's probably a negative to some of you, but for me, the millennial I am, it's spectacular. There's only one cup holder, so either you or your mistress will be able to bring a beverage, not the both of you. There's no space in the door cards. The glove box is a joke, and the back seat, prisoner of war device back there. But other than that, honestly, if you're looking for a quiet, comfortable, long-distance GT car that you can't take anything in, I have no complaints. Under the 2019 Lexus LC500. Now, Mark has done the world's longest LC500 video with Scott. They talked about everything. The biggest change they made to this car was the suspension tuning. They made the car ride a lot softer. They did this by adding independently variable compression and rebound to the shock bodies. They also added different bushings for the shock bodies as well. This allows for the car to ride much smoother than its 2018 counterpart. The other change that they made was a different steering rack mount. This allows for more direct steering feel. The other big change they made to the 2019 model year is different shift logic. So when you think about this 10-speed, you have to think of a dual-purpose vehicle. When you're at high RPMs, when you're really going for it, full monkey mode, this car shifts like a twin clutch. Both upshifts and downshifts are lightning quick and they're brutal. When you're just puttering around in the 65-year-old man mode, the car shifts like a Cadillac. It's very smooth. You don't even notice the shifts, to be honest. And if you didn't know any better, you would think this car's a total snoozer. What they tried fixing with the 2019 model year update is the middle RPM kind of 5/10 mode. It really struggled in the past between giving you inconsistent shifts. One shift would be brutal, another shift would be really smooth, and the car never felt right. So what they did was they tried to further amplify both extremes to make the middle a little softer. In the back of the 2019 LC500, they've made no changes back here. Just like before, you can get a limited slip, which this car does not have. And to be honest, you don't need it. This car will go sideways all day long if you really want it to. So enough of that, let's hit the road. Taking off in a Lexus LC500. And this car, pretty much more than any car I've ever been in, it matters how you temper your expectations. Meaning if you go into this car thinking it's a sports car versus thinking it's a GT car, your enjoyment levels will be dramatically affected. Now, for sake of argument, let's first look at this car as a sports car. So I'm gonna come to a complete stop. I'm gonna turn everything off and light up the rear tires. And hopefully you're gonna get to hear how amazing this motor sounds. This motor and trans is spectacular when going flat out. The car sounds amazing. The audible experience makes you form an emotional attachment with this vehicle. And the trans, while in the middle RPM mode, kind of sucks. Up high, when you're going flat out, you can be fooled into thinking it belongs in a supercar. It's genuinely that fast. The shifts are crisp and brutal, to be honest. Because of how good the motor is, you can be fooled into thinking that this is really a driver's car, and unfortunately it's not. And this is where I'm gonna start to disagree with Mark. I don't think this car communicates with you in a fashion that makes sense for a $100,000 sub 500 horsepower rear-wheel drive Lexus. The steering is entirely lifeless. You feel nothing. The chassis, while being very well dampened, the body control in this car is great, you get no feedback from. So the only way you know you're going sideways or that you're losing traction either the front or the rear is an audible response from the tires. The brakes of this car, despite being cheap to replace and being brake-by-wire, are nice and progressive, but they're not that powerful. They don't stop you that well. And the last complaint I have with this car that is, I'm not sure how just it is, but it's actually the traction control. It's so invasive when you're driving it regularly, you have to turn it off to have any fun. And when you turn it off, all it does is remind you that you've turned it off. It's like, you're gonna die! And that's all the car does. It wants to kill fun, which, again, in a rear-wheel drive, sub 500 horsepower car, seems ridiculous. So I've turned traction control back on. I've put it in comfort mode, which softens up the suspension and the shift points. And we're just gonna go for a little bit of a cruise. And when you do this, you realize how special this car is. Because you're not going flat out, you can stop and look at how amazing this interior is. The attention to detail, and I know this is a cliche, the craftsmanship as well. And the other big, let's say, perk of this car is that it's unique. And because of that, you can just kind of drive along and have no one judge you, which is nice. You don't get that in a 911. You don't get that in an F Type. And because they don't sell very many of these cars, people always look at it with this kind of, oh my God, is that a Japanese spaceship? So with all that being said, let's get into the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the Lexus LC500. Now, just like Mark, I love this car. On an emotional level, it does nothing but make me smile. However, every single time I got out of it, I was left wondering, what role does the LC fill? And in short, it fills no role. Sure, that's kind of what makes it special, but it's what makes it so hard to recommend. It's not a great GT car despite being very comfortable because you can't fit anything in it. It won't make a good daily because there's no trunk. There's no interior cargo space of any kind. And when you're buying it as a sports car, it's too slow for a $100,000 rear-wheel drive, sub 500 horsepower car. It's slower than a Camaro or a Mustang, or to be honest, probably even a tuned WRX. It's not communicative enough to replace a 911. The steering's a little dead, and the chassis, despite being very nimble for a 4,300 pound car, there's no feedback there. So you're left with something that doesn't really replace a particular car in the lineup. However, if you already have a good sports car, if you already have a great four-door long-distance cruiser, you're left with something that is very special, that feels like nothing else on the road, and that you know will be reliable. So with that being said, is the LC the greatest car in the world? No, but it is a very special car. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day.
I'm on my laptop right now. This is the gentleman you're leaving me for? Very well. I hate this Savagegeese. I'm going to show you how to get rid of him. Just like this.